عصف الأنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا كم مرة قد ضقت من عظم البال.
الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It's been a while since I wore one of these, right? I don't know if I done it properly, but you know, who cares? But today I'm dressed like this. It's because our Sheikh Uthman bin Farooq, the claimant to a master's degree in hadith, is making continuous blunders when trying to correct himself. Now, again, we'll get to his blunders, his pronunciation, and again, once you profess or claim that you have a certain qualification in a certain field, then we expect you to have a certain proficiency and competency, which isn't found in Uthman bin Farooq. I responded to his video regarding the hadith of the people of Yemen, and I broke down the whiteboard or the blackboard he had, which had the different asanid, and he was trying to obviously correct himself because he's making blunders consistently. Now, someone who professes to have a certain degree in a certain field shouldn't be making layman blunders. I'm sorry. So I'm dressing like the Sheikh today because I'm going to educate our Sheikh regarding another clarification that he regularly does. And I can promise you, if I was to go through his playlist, which I won't, honestly, I've got some good videos coming forward or coming soon in the future. And I will be able to find so much issues, so much contradictions, so much blunders that once again, he should take a step back. Comparative religion, if you want to debate the Nasara, go for it. That you've got your New Testament or Old Testament with the bookmarks, go for it. Knock yourself out. And even then, I've seen videos where you've made terrible Arabic blunders. But again, we don't want to give any momentum to the A'da Allah or A'da Deen. But ultimately, if you're going to be debating and making claims, then you've got to be very, very careful. Anyway, so what's happened now? And again, these videos have got tens of thousands of views. I think the Yemeni one's got nearly 90,000 or 80,000. This one's got 70,000. So that's near enough, 200,000 people. And it's misinformation and it's disinformation. So we've got the right to clear any misconceptions, any disinformation, because if the tens of people that have watched it try to propagate this, then they're propagating it incorrectly. Anyway, so what happened? Sorry, I'm sorting my stuff out. I don't know if I've done it properly, but who cares? I'm matching it with my phone. He went on Umrah again, but he had no sleep, you see. And he was discussing the age of Khadijah رضي الله عنها. Now, once again, this ain't a pertinent issue. Again, we'll get into the claims made by Uthman bin Farooq. But even then, if she's of a certain age, which has commonly been spread, and there's other opinions, it's not like it's from the Usul al-Din. It doesn't really make a difference. But the overzealous Salafi always wants to make a claim. So let's go to the original video. And again, we give him the benefit of the day. He didn't have no sleep. He went to Umrah, whatnot. So let's listen.
Guys, I just learned that Khadijah رضي الله عنها wasn't 40 years old when she married Rasulullah.
So the hadith about her being 40 years old, it's reported by a narrator called Waqidi. He's matruk, extremely weak. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in Bidayah wa Nihaya says he was between 25 and 28. This idea of her being 40 is incorrect, even though it's widespread in the Muslim Ummah. But every sanad has a Waqidi who's matruk. If you look at my Sirah Durus, we go over this in detail.
Well, my whole life I was thinking 40 years old.
That's why you
25.
That's why you gotta roll with the people. I'm gonna show you the right path.
And also, if she was 40.
Uthman bin Farooq mentioned that Khadijah رضي الله عنها was not 40 years old. She was between 25 and 28. And the brothers around him are like shocked. Wow, we didn't know this, because it's commonly spread in the Muslim world, right? So he made his claim, obviously made a slip by saying Ibn Hajar in his Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. We know it is Ibn Kathir, but we obviously know that he is aware of that. But then he says at the end, right, which makes me a bit like perturbed. He said, that's why you got to roll with the people who will show you the right path. Now, this issue, again, makes no difference whatsoever. Whether you're right or wrong, we're going to show you with your expertise in hadith, to show you you're so ignorant that you claim one thing, but if your standards and principles were the same, if you had the same consistency, you wouldn't use a narration that you did. And I'm going to show you, it's shocking. Uqsumu billahi al-aliyyil azim. Now, I believe, once again, that you don't do the research. I'm very confident that you don't do the research. Like our brother Daniel, which is no shame. If you have brothers who are supporting you, khalas, no mushkila. Just declare it, yeah, I'm getting support and whatnot, but you pass it off as if it's your own research. I had to make a clarification, as always, because obviously people pulled him up. So let's listen to him, and we'll respond in kind.
Age of Khadijah رضي عنها when she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No doubt the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was about 25 years of age, but many of the people have this belief that Khadijah رضي عنها was 40 years of age when she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though this belief has no authentic evidence, it's not in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ didn't tell us this. Even if we look at the ahadith that are reported from the Sahaba and Tabi'un about this, one thing you'll notice is almost every single chain begins with Al-Waqidi. And Al-Waqidi, he is a narrator that has been rejected. He is not just weak. Don't confuse da'if from mawdu'. Don't confuse a weak hadith from a fabrication. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said about him, who was a kadhab, he was a continuous liar, somebody who would constantly make up hadith, and his hadith are fabricated. He would make up fabrications. Imam al-Bukhari, the great scholar of hadith, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil hadith, Imam al-Bukhari says, the scholars have abandoned him, they have rejected him. His hadith are rejected, munkar al-hadith, that his hadith are not to be relied upon, they're rejected. Imam al-Nasa'i, from the great scholars of the Kutub Sitta, he says his narrations are not even to be written down. Don't even write them down. They are not to be relied upon. Ibn Hibban, what did he say? He said that he would make iqlab, he would flip the asanid, he would make mistakes, and he would narrate fabricated reports as if they were authentic. He would narrate lies and try to make them look as if they were authentic. His narration should not be used except to be shocked at what he's been narrating. Now, look at the harsh and stern warnings that the scholars of hadith have given about him. Imam al-Dhahabi says that there is consensus, ijma' of the scholars of hadith around his weakness, that he is weak, and al-Dhahabi himself says he is matruk, he is rejected. The only other narration comes from Abdullah ibn Muhammad ibn Yahya, ibn Urwa, ibn Zubayr, and this narration, again, is from somebody who is Abdullah ibn Muhammad ibn Yahya ibn Urwa, who is matruk and hadith. So that means every single chain, no matter how many there are all from either fabricators or extremely rejected narrators. So none of that is authentic. None of that can be relied upon, which mentions the age of 40. Al-Hakim, he mentions with the chain from Ibrahim ibn Sa'd al-Zuhri. Who is Ibrahim ibn Sa'd al-Zuhri? He's a strong narrator. Abu Hatim said thiqa, that he is reliable. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said he's thiqa. He reports from Muhammad ibn Ishaq, from Ibn Ishaq, the great scholar of hadith and of seerah, from the earliest scholars. What does he say? That verily Abu Talib and Khadijah radiallahu anha, both of them died in the same year, and that was before the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ to Medina by 3 years, meaning 3 years before the hijrah. And the day that she was married, she was 28 years of age. So now, from a strong chain, from Ibn Ishaq, we have the opinion that she was 28 years of age, and Al-Hakim has reported this with the chain.
To add, I'm going to respond part by part, segment by segment, because if I just play the whole clip, you won't understand where the issues are. So, breaking it down for this first part, then there'll be a second part, and then there'll be a third part, and I'll respond to it accordingly. So, he's presenting his case regarding the narrator Al-Waqidi. He presented Imam Ahmad, and then he presented Imam Nasa'i, Nasa'i, there's no Ain, it's Nasa'i, okay, we'll get to his other mistakes, honestly, shocking blunders. So, he presented obviously that he's weak and, you know, he's a liar and whatnot. Okay. So then he presented an athar, right, from Mustadrak al-Hakim. Now I'm going to show you how this individual and his team behind him are so incompetent that it makes you laugh. It makes you laugh. So he presented a chain with Muhammad ibn Ishaq. Muhammad ibn Ishaq. At the start he mentioned Imam Ahmed said he's a liar, right? He's a liar, meaning Al-Waqidi. And he presented other ulama. We're going to get to Waqidi later about the different sciences, like where he's accepted, where he's rejected. But he mentioned Muhammad bin Ishaq, the leading scholar, you know, this hadith chain is strong, and he mentioned something along the lines that the accepted in hadith or whatnot. Let me listen to it because I forgot what he said about him. Hold on, let me just get into it, hold on.
Abu Talib and Khadijah from Ishaq, the great scholar of hadith.
The great scholar of hadith. Of Sirah. So the great scholar of hadith and Sirah, alright? You heard him. Now what he doesn't know, that Muhammad bin Ishaq in hadith, right, in hadith was criticized and his narrations were not accepted. So if you've got a standard for Al-Waqidi, okay, using these statements from the ulama of hadith or the muhaddithun saying he's, you know, matruq, he's this and that, then how can you say it's a strong chain with Muhammad bin Ishaq, who was also critiqued in the same way? Wallah al-azim, are you for real? So, let me step back now, 1 point at a time. Okay, this is in the way, it's quite uncomfortable to be honest, I've got to keep doing this. So, Muhammad bin Ishaq was severely critiqued. You said a leading scholar of hadith and an Imam in Sirah. But Al-Waqidi is an Imam in Sirah. I will prove that as well in a video that I've done before. And I presented all the jarh, all the ta'deel, what the ulama have said, to the point that the ulama have criticized him, the later muhaddithun, but they use his book, an abridged version of his book, Uqsum Billah. Let's just get into this. We got the book Al-Kamilu fi Du'afa al-Rijal, written by Al-Imam Al-Hafiz Abi Ahmed Abdullah bin Adi, but it's Udi here, bin Adi al-Jurjani. Okay? And when speaking about Muhammad bin Ishaq, I'm just going to see if he's consistent, right? There's loads of Athariya critiquing him, but I'm just going to show you what Imam Malik said, because he focused on Imam Ahmed first. So, he mentions that Imam Malik, when he heard or was mentioned regarding Muhammad bin Ishaq, he said, Dajjal min ad-Dajjajila. He's a Dajjal, he's an imposter from the imposters, or a charlatan from the charlatans. Furthermore, we got another athar underneath, and it mentions that Wahib heard Malik bin Anas yaqul huwa kadhab. He is a liar, Muhammad bin Ishaq. Right? Muhammad bin Ishaq. And it mentions underneath that the scholar Faryabi was asked about Muhammad bin Ishaq. And it mentions that he said some words that were like repulsive about him. And he said he's a zindiq. He's what? A zindiq. Okay? Now, come back to me now. So let's play back your video where you mentioned Muhammad bin Ishaq and then you said he's a leading scholar of hadith and Imam Sirah. Let's listen to you.
He reports from Muhammad ibn Ishaq, from Ibn Ishaq, the great scholar of hadith and of seerah, from the earliest scholars. What does he say?
Heard Uthman bin Farooq when he was mentioning Muhammad bin Ishaq, he called him a leading scholar of hadith, an imam in seerah, well obviously that's not disputed, and the early scholars. Imam Malik called him a Dajjal min ad-Dajjajila, kadhab, and he's been called a Zindiq. And if you look at different scholars we're going to get to, they've critiqued him heavily. So you've got issues with Al-Waqidi, and we're going to get to that because I'm going to play a video where I did in the past where I explain it all. And then you're praising Muhammad bin Ishaq, who's called all sorts by the muhaddithun, the early muhaddithun. So how can you accept Muhammad bin Ishaq in this chain but reject Al-Waqidi? Explain that to me, Uthman bin Farooq. Okay? Looks nice on me, doesn't it? Anyway, let's carry on. You can see on screen, we've got a book by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani where he's describing all those who have been accused of tadlis, right? And when he gets to Muhammad bin Ishaq, he mentions that he's a person who is obviously the person of Maghazi and Sir and whatnot. And he's known for what? For tadlis. And he's even worse than the du'afa and the majhulin. Look at that. Look at the critique there regarding him. And this has been described by Ahmed and Daraqutni and other than them too as well. And as you can see on screen, we've got Taqrib al-Tahdhib by Ibn Hajar again. And when he mentions Muhammad bin Ishaq, he mentions that obviously the Imam Maghazi, which we don't disagree with. Obviously he does tadlis, yudallis, and he's been accused of having Shi'i tendencies and of qadr as well. So how is he a leading scholar of hadith when he's been accused of having Shi'i tendencies and obviously rejected qadr as well? So as you can see, we've got the book Tahdhib al-Tahdhib by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and when discussing Muhammad bin Ishaq, it mentions that when Imam Ahmed, when he's speaking about Ibn Ishaq, he says, Laysa bi hujjah. He is not a hujjah. He also mentioned that Abdullah ibn Ahmed said that his father did not use his reports when discussing what is sunnah. So, Uthman bin Farooq, I want to understand now. If Imam al-Waqidi, we're going to get to, we're going to correct you on that as well. Muhammad bin Ishaq is a leading scholar of hadith and an Imam of Seerah and the early scholar of hadith. You are critiquing Imam al-Waqidi, but you accept Muhammad bin Ishaq. How? How? You're presenting this as if it's a strong chain. How is this a strong chain when Muhammad bin Ishaq is inside there? Principally. Now again, I have no issue, right, with Muhammad bin Ishaq being in this chain. Why? Because it's connected to Maghazi and Sir. So, some are critiqued in a certain field was accepted in another. So, Imam Asim, we're going to get to, I'm going to present my video as well. It's a video I did a year ago. He was critiqued in hadith, but he's accepted in qira'ah. You see? Likewise, Al-Waqidi and Muhammad ibn Ishaq, whilst they critiqued in hadith, they accepted in Seerah and Maghazi. Okay? So as you can see on screen, we've got Tabaqat al-Kubra by Ibn Sa'ad. And this is where it's come from. So as you can see, the chapter of mentioning the marriage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Khadijah bin Khuwaylid radhiyallahu anha. And here's the athar, as you can see. You've got Muhammad ibn Waqid al-Aslami, and he's got the chain here. And then, as you can see, he mentions about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam marrying her, as you can see on the second page, that he was 25 years old, and Khadijah radhiyallahu anha was 40 years old. Okay, she was what? 40 years old. Okay. Now, as Uthman ibn Farooq continues, right, he mentioned some other points which I need to correct him on. Okay, just this video. So just to show you the research is actually lacking. We're going to get to Al-Waqidi. Don't worry about it. Waqidi is the last of our issues. He's supposed to have a master's in hadith, but he makes major blunders that he doesn't even realize that when he's doing transmission of books, he doesn't know what the scholar is actually saying or whether he's transmitting from another book. And this is where it gets a bit embarrassing. So let's listen to it.
Al-Bayhaqi, from the early great scholars of Islam, in his amazing work called Dalal al-Nabuwa, he says, Qala Abu Abdullah al-Hakim. This is reported by Abu Abdullah, Imam al-Hakim, that he says, I myself read in the handwriting of Abu Bakr ibn Abi Khaythama that he said that I was informed myself by Mus'ab ibn Abdullah al-Zubayri, the great scholar, the thiqa reporter, early scholar of Islam, who said that Khadijah رضي الله عنها reached 50 years of age, and that is the most authentic narration when she died. Meaning that it's been reported that she was 65, and it's been reported that she was 50 sana, 50 years, وهو أصح. What does that mean? That from the early Taba Tabi'un, they said that she died at 50. Now, if she married the Prophet ﷺ when he was 25, and wahi began when he was 40. So that means that between the time where the Prophet married her and wahi beginning was 15 years, right? 25, 30, 40 years of age. Before the hijrah was made, 10 years between that, that would mean that she was married 25 years to the Prophet ﷺ before she passed away. And that would mean that if she died at 50, she was 25 years of age when she married the Prophet ﷺ. And this is an authentic chain. This is not a matruk chain or so on. Now, is this something that we are revising history from? Not at all. In fact, Al-Bayhaqi and Al-Hakim and Ibn Asakir, he has also mentioned from Abu Bakr ibn Uthman ibn Salih ibn Hunayf and so on. And I want to point this out. Ibn Kathir, the great scholar of tafsir, the great scholar of history, in his amazing work called Bidayah wa Nihaya, he discusses all of these chains, including Waqidi's and his weakness. And after discussing it, what does he say? Wal asah, what is the most authentic on the subject? إنها كانت في 25 سنة, that she was 25 years old when she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And what you don't do, or what your team didn't do it, they didn't present the whole chain. I'm sorry, they didn't present the whole text. And this is a common theme, right? It's a common theme. And like I said before, my bro, if I was to go through your Seerah Durus that you were mentioning, or any of your videos, I'm not even exaggerating, I could at least have a whole year worth of content, just highlighting your mistakes. Now remember, again, I'm wearing the clothing, the scholarly clothing today, right? So as you can see on screen, we've got the narration that he quoted, and again, he didn't even quote it in full, and I have to correct him again. قال أبو عبد الله, that he mentioned, قرأت بخط أبي بكر بن أبي خيثمة قال حدثنا مسعب بن عبد الله زبيري قال. So this is the actual text now. That the oldest son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Al-Qasim. Okay? Akbar. Alright? ثم زينب. ثم عبد الله. ثم كلثوم. ثم فاطمة. ثم رقية. قال مصعب. So he didn't quote this. هم هكذا. This is how it is. الأول فالأول. The first of the first. ثم مات القاسم. Then Qasim passed away first. And he was the first one that passed away from his sons. And he died in Mecca. Then Abdullah died. Okay? Then Abdullah died. And then it was informed that Khadijah was 65. And some say she was 50. وَهُوَ أَصَحْ. And this is the most authentic. This is now where it gets disturbing. Ibn Kathir in his Bidayah wa Nihaya, he's not mentioning anything himself. He's doing a transmission of Imam al-Bayhaqi. So where I've got a problem is that he doesn't understand the difference between transmission of a statement by an alim, of another alim, and the actual alim who's writing the book himself, his own statements. Because usually he says qultu, and he says, okay, I'm saying it now. Now this is where it's very, very problematic. So Uthman bin Farooq, or Shaykhuna, let's go into it. Obviously it's embarrassing. We're going to get to Waqidi, don't worry about it. I've got a whole different video for that. I've done it a year ago, so I'm going to show you how ignorant you actually are. So as you can see on screen, we've got Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, right? So as you can see, we've got قال البيهقي حاكم قرأت بخط أبي بكر بن أبي خيثمة حدثنا مصعب بن عبد الله الزبيري قال أكبر ولده عليه الصلاة والسلام قاسم ثم زينب ثم عبد الله ثم كلثوم ثم فاطمة ثم رقية وكان أول من مات من ولده Qasim. So he mentions Khadijah's age when she passed away was either 65 or 50. Okay? And 50 is the most authentic. Right. 50 is most authentic. So, وَهُوَ أَصَّحُ, or huwa asah, according to Uthman bin Farooq, was supposed to be that Khadijah was 25 years old, وهو الصح إلى البداية والنهاية. No, it's not. This is where it gets worse. It gets really worse. So, this is page 464. Go to 466, it mentions وَهَكَذَا نَقْلَ الْبَيْحَقِي. Now, Bayhaqi is doing naql now. He's doing transmission. He's doing a transmission of who? Bayhaqi. It's not Ibn Kathir's statement. Even the one before where he says وَهُوَ أَصَحُّ, it's not Ibn Kathir's statement. It's from Bayhaqi. He's doing naql. Now he mentions Ali al-Hakim, the same. That the age of the Prophet ﷺ when he married Khadijah رضي الله عنها was 25 سنة. It was 25, the Prophet ﷺ. وكان عمرها, and Khadijah رضي الله عنha's age إذا ذاك 35 was 35. Okay? Was 35. وقيل, and it is said 25 سنة. بس, that's it. When did it say وهو الصح? وهو الصح. When did it say that? Uthman, when did it say that? وقال البيحقي, go after, باب ما كان يشتغل به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل أن يتزوج خديجة. Then it carries on. أخبرنا أبو عبد الله الحافظ أخبرنا أبو بكر بن عبد الله. Carry on reading. Where does he say that وهو صح after what you mentioned? Let's play your video.
Tafsir, the great scholar of history, in his amazing work called Bidayah wa Nihaya, he discusses all of these chains, including Waqidi's and his weakness. And after discussing it, what does he say? Wal asah, what is the most authentic on the subject? إنها كانت في 25 سنة. That she was 25 years old when she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Uthman bin Farooq doesn't do the research. I keep stressing that point. He doesn't do the research. Also, he mentioned that Ibn Kathir critiques Waqidi. I've gone through the chapter, and he doesn't mention anything about Al-Waqidi. So now you don't even know what you're talking about. And the reason why I'm not shocked, because I've seen you debate with the Masihi. Honestly, terrible. I've got wala to you all day, every day against the Nasara. But وَقُولُوا بِالْحَقِّ حَيْثُ مَا كُنْتُمْ. That was embarrassing. How long ago, I don't know, but you were calling the Arabic wrong consistently. You know, I was just like pulling my head thinking, why are you in the park trying to give da'wah over on a subject you don't know nothing about? So, you see my point here. You see my point that this is ludicrous, that he's doing transmission of texts and whatnot. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to correct him regarding Al-Waqidi. I recorded a video a year ago responding to our brother Knowledge North, right? So all the evidences are there to show you that Al-Waqidi is accepted in Sirah, is accepted in Al-Maghazi, even though he's critiqued in Hadith. The same with Muhammad bin Ishaq is critiqued in Hadith, when you said it's a strong chain. And he's a leading scholar in Hadith. Yeah, Dajjal bin Dajjajila, he's strong, yeah. So let's play that video and then I'll come back to you. Different ulama specialized in different fields, okay? Those who specialize in Hadith were Ashabul Hadith. Those who specialized in the biographies, more notably the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or others, they were Ashabul Sirah, okay? They were the ones that dealt with biography. Those who dealt with the characteristics and habits of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were called Ashabul Shama'il. So they had specialist knowledge that they dealt with. Under 7,993, we've got Muhammad bin Umar bin Waqid al-Aslami. Okay, so you got Imam al-Waqidi. So Imam al-Dahabi presents a statement from Mujahid bin Musa. And Mujahid bin Musa said, I have not written from anyone that has memorized more than al-Waqidi. Okay, this is a praise from Mujahid bin Musa. I will show you those who praised him even in this particular book. So Imam al-Dahabi comments now. He says, he spoke the truth, meaning Mujahid bin Musa. كان إلى حفظه المنتحف الأخبار والسير والمغازي والحوادث والأيام الناس والفقه. That his memory was at best in remembering history, biographies, battles, and basically the hawadith, the events of the people. Okay? And in fiqh, and other than that. Okay? So as you see, Imam al-Dahabi mentions that his memory was at best in the fields of akhbar, history, biographies, maghazi, like battles, and the events of the people, meaning obviously historical events, and fiqh. And other than that, yes, he was weak in hadith. Okay, no doubt about it, and we're going to present that now. So as you can see, so all the critique now that you would listen to are critiques in the field of hadith. The way Imam Asim was critiqued in hadith, so was Imam al-Waqidi. But when it comes to history and battles and events of the people and fiqh, his memory was good, as Mujahid bin Musa said. Okay, let's carry on. Let's go to the critique. So Bukhari critiqued him, sakatu anhu, that people were silent about him, meaning they left him. Ishaq bin Rahiway, he said, huwa indi mimman yad'u al-hadith. Now I'm going to show you where people praise him. قال المصعب الزبيري, he said, والله ما رأينا مثل الواقد قط. That I swear by Allah, we have not seen similar to al-Waqidi. Got another statement from another alim that said, Al-Waqidi Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Qala Mus'ab Thiqatul Ma'moon, that he is trustworthy, he's obviously reliable, etc. etc. So coming back to me now. So there you go. I've been transparent, right? Imam al-Dahabi from another book regarding Imam al-Waqidi, rahmatullah alayhi. So as you can see on screen, we've got the book Tazkiratul Huffaz by Imam al-Dahabi, rahmatullah alayhi. Now Imam al-Dahabi mentions, okay, as you can see under 334, Al-Waqidi huwa Muhammad. Okay, so he mentions Imam al-Waqidi. Where the arrow's over, he mentions that he is one of the vessels of knowledge. Okay? But he wasn't well versed in hadith. He wasn't like mutqin in a hadith. But what did he mention? وَهُوَ رَأْسٌ فِي الْمَغَازِي وَالسِّيرِ. He was an expert, one of the heads in maghazi and in battles and in biographies. Okay? There you go. Now also to add further emphasis, we've got Taqrib al-Tahdib by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and as you go, we got Muhammad bin Umar bin Waqid al-Aslami, al-Waqidi, al-Madani, al-Qadi. Okay, there you go. So, and he basically came to Baghdad. Then he mentions with the arrows over, Matruq ma'a sa'atin ilmihi, that he is rejected, he is left in hadith despite his vast knowledge. Okay, despite what? His vast knowledge. Now, coming back to me, this is very important. I told you this is quite technical now. So Imam al-Waqidi in maghazi and in sir and in battles and hawadith, ayyam al-nas, the events of the people, he was an expert. He was an expert. Now, so you read what Imam Ibn Hajar said about al-Waqidi. He says, Matruq ma'a sa'atin ilmi. He's left in hadith. He's left, despite his vast knowledge. But what did Ibn Hajar do? Ibn Hajar actually uses his book and does an abridged version of his Maghazi book, even though he says Matruq. So how can you say Matruq, right, and at the same time use his work in Maghazi? That don't make any sense. So what was he rejected in? There was a specific field in knowledge where he was rejected. So the same way Imam Asim was critiqued in hadith, so was he. But Imam Asim is accepted in qira'ah, no doubt about it. Of course he's accepted in qira'ah, he's one of the masters. Likewise, Imam al-Waqidi, rahmatullah alayhi, was also a master in maghazi and in sir and hawadith ayyam al-nas and the battles of the people and in biographies and history, etc. Ibn Hajar, rahmatullah alayhi, who said Matruq regarding al-Waqidi in Taqrib al-Tahdib, he himself writes a book or takes extracts from his maghazi book and writes a book called Al-Muntaqa min Maghazi al-Waqidi, that they're basically taking a portion out of the book al-Maghazi of al-Waqidi. And this is by Lil-Hafidh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the same one who said Matruq. So you got Sariya Abdullah bin Jahsh. So he talks about the Sariya of Abdullah bin Jahsh. This is an extract from Imam al-Waqidi's book. Then you got Badr al-Kubra. He talks about the major battle of al-Badr. And then he's got the chapter of the splitting or the dividing of the ghanima of Badr. And he uses that. Okay? He uses that. Now coming back to me. There's only one possible, reasonable, fair explanation, which is that, yes, in hadith, he's left. He's left. Some ulama praised him. Some ulama were harsh against him. So you got jarh wa ta'dil now. You got critique and you've got praise. In al-Maghazi and in Sir and in Tarikh and Hawadith Ayyam al-Nas and the events of the people, he was one, as Imam al-Dahabi said, he was the ras, he was the head expert, and we take him in that. And the reason why they were critiqued in hadith, because hadith involves ahkam. You're a person that's transmitting the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that involves ahkam. So you got to be very careful, right? So it just shows once again with the hadith of Yemen, you made blunders. And again, I don't say you. Your teammate blunders. You didn't do it, did you? So Imam al-Sakhawi presents like who wrote about Maghazi and Sirah and whatnot. And then as you can see, where the arrow's over, وَأَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ Muhammad bin Umar al-Aslami. And then he also mentions Muhammad bin Ishaq al-Mutallibi. And it reminds me of the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ said that people would take ignorant people as their leaders. رؤوس جهالة فسئلوا فأفتوا بغير العلم. That they will ask them questions and they will give answers, fatwa without knowledge. فَضَلُّوا وَأَضَلُّوا. They would misguide people and they misguide others as well. And I have to stress that da'wah is not an excuse for you to dwell into other topics, you know, where you're not trained in the sciences. Like, you know, you're talking about masail, you know, leave that to the fuqaha, leave that to the mashayikh. If you've got a niche in a certain field, like you got niche in tariq, or you got niche in like tawa'if, wal milal wal nihal, you know, the sects, and you want to discuss that, labas. Like, even if just narrating a hadith, just narrating it and not adding any commentary, just say this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, or doing naqal, doing transmission. So like grabbing a book here and said, okay, I'm not doing anything from my own pocket, I'm just transmitting. You see? And that is not blameworthy. If you've got access to the sources, then do it. But Uthman bin Farooq is not a person of knowledge. I'm sorry. He's not Ahl al-Dhikr. His claim to a master's degree in hadith is questionable. But all I will say is that please be careful. Look, I looked the part, all right. But please be careful because these videos are getting hundreds of thousands of views and it's misinformation. And it's disinformation. So you'll be held accountable, Uthman bin Farooq. You'll be held accountable again and again and again. Take care of yourselves. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.
ليس الغريب غريب الشام واليمن إن الغريب غريب اللحد والكفن إن الغريب له حق لغربته على المقيمين في الأوطان والسكن سفر بعيد وزاد لن يبلغني وقوتي ضعفت والموت يطلبني ما أحلم الله عني حيث أمهلني وقد تماديت في ذنبي ويسترني تمر ساعة